Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
One thing which really comes to me when we have been talking so much about art and culture, the panel discussion, the topic, in fact, I should read that out first. It is symbiosis of arts, culture with spirituality for a deeper and sustainable transformational impact on the mankind. Right? So, what is common between art and spirituality? What is common between culture and spirituality? Let us start with this first. Can we have it from you, Zia, first?
The first thing that comes to me is beauty. Like if you see, I like to learn from nature. Nature was always there before I was born and before my ego, the I came into existence. And, nature was always there. And when I look around in nature, there's so much beauty. You look at a tree, you look at a flower, you look at a mountain scene, you look at a river. There's just so much beauty in the way it is formed. So what's common between art and spirituality is beauty, because art is also for an expression of beauty. So whatever is the outer manifestation is the inner reflection of that is being manifested outside. And then therefore I think spirituality is about inner beauty.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Let's have it from ER now, and then we come on to Sir Richard.
What
What is
I'm
it?
feeling right now
It's
that I see as a connection is that yeah, spirituality, arts, culture, it's a way for people to gather. Like it's natural for us to gather and gathering around the fire or bonfire. I realize it's like, wow, that's like the first show. Like we watch that and we get rekindled through that. And yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with beauty. And I agree that, even in collective rituals of praying and there is singing and there have been dancing and there have been poetry. And so these three, spirituality, arts, and culture, they're not really, really separate. I really feel like arts is one thing that has gotten us through, wars and suddenly someone has to write a book and we get consoled by reading another person's story, or we sing together, a melody comes along, or stories that are important, they get documented and memorialized through, yeah, beautiful songs, beautiful works of art. And we get to remember, we get to evolve in consciousness because of that experience. And I forgot who said this, but it's something like food is nurturance for the body, but art is nurturance and food for the soul. And yeah, and I have a strong feeling that these things are not really separate. And even though in the video I said that I really feel like, I no longer wish or intend for my body to be out there, as a performative body, but there's just more calling for me to practice this presence practice, this being in communion with Daloy or flow, internally, externally, or like a force field. um yeah, how can I do that embodied practice every day and in everything that I do, and encourage others to do that as well. And especially when I also meet people who are like, they were wounded from a very, very young age. They were told they have two left feet or they don't dance, or it's like, I'm not a dancer because it's like this. And finally they open up to that realization that, okay, let's not call it dance, let's just call it moving. We're just moving. And then because you're connecting your mind, your body, your consciousness, and especially your heart, then yeah, and then they realize, oh, I have this temple that is my body, could house and could express my soul, and at the same time feed my soul in the process. So yeah, I think those are the intersections for me.
Yes. That is something, taking beyond the limits. This is hunger. Say we all human beings actually hunger for something which is going to take us beyond the limits of our capacity. So this awareness, this is spirituality, and this is what creativity and art, this is what dance is doing. It is making us aware of the presence of love all around us. All the elements, as you said, you feel emerging with them. And there is hope, right? This is what I think. There's more of hope, more of love. It's more of getting something into nothingness, as you said. It's a mystery. Just like spirituality, is encountering with the presence of mystery in our lives. I feel dance too becomes the same when because both of you are dancers. In fact, even Murthy ji, the third one that we have participant, was a dancer. So it is a presence of mystery in our lives. Of there's something, nothing, and in nothingness there is everything. Do you agree to this? Do you agree to this? Am I audible?
Yes.
Very
Is it my turn?
Yes, you are.
Your mics were off, I guess.
no,
Okay. So,
no.
I mean, if we agree to this, what is that which takes us, beyond the surface appearances,
Yeah. You know
as
what you
you have been told?
is really true in the way I relate to it. Like for all artists who are in a creative field, the more empty we become, the more empty we become as artists, the more we die unto ourselves, the more something from out there can fill us and move us in our creativity. So a painter will say, I wasn't there when I painted this, something painted through me. Or a dancer will say, something danced to me. Things like that. That's really about the, the personality dying and letting something just come and fill us and move us. So that nothingness brings us in that space.
So that is that total surrender, abandonment, releasing of, your source from inside.
Yeah,
You're getting
absolutely.
you. That is how you merge. This is what spirituality is about, and this is what art is about, or in fact, dance is about. If I focus it on your dances only, what do you say, Richard sir?
Well, I agree, of course, 100%. Even though I spoke about international politics, as I
Yes.
said, I've been a professor of literature. I love the literary arts. I was a poet myself. Uh, I was a musician as a child, and then coming to India, I became a musician again, as I said, playing in the Baul folk music group. But we also
Yes.
dance, so I do dancing at times with the Baul group that I play in. But I think it all has to do with imagination as well. I think as a professor, I can see um, that we are educating the intellect, not the imagination.
Yes.
And part of our brain, I guess, left brain is intellectual, and the right brain is imagination. And we need imagination. I think you can't really respond to nature or beauty, or maybe even other people, without imagination, without breaking out of this stereotypical labeling of everything. I
Is
should
this
say one reason I chose to come to India is because I love the way people here still have a myth, what I call a mythic imagination.
oh,
Whereas in US, unfortunately, it's being destroyed. I won't say the West in general, but all I can speak for is the United States. And even though I love my country, I don't like the direction it's taking. And not just politically, but culturally, everything is commodified, everything is for sale, everyone is for sale, apparently. And we've lost that mythic imagination. I think we live in the post-Christian era.
with
Most
this,
Americans say they're Christians, but I don't see it in their behavior. So
and with this, when you talk about this, I suddenly remember Rumi here, the
Rumi,
Sufi poet Rumi. Yes, he talked of two intelligences. Ah,
Yes,
Are you
yes.
able to hear me? He talked of two intelligences. One, he said, was the acquired knowledge, the book that you are talking about, the intelligence which makes us move ahead in this world. That is all retaining information. And the other one, which, is about that something which is coming from inside, which is already existing, which is already complete and preserved inside all of us. Like I said, it's like a spring overflowing its spring box. So the container. This is what you mean by imagination. This
Yeah,
is the source. Actually don't leave ourselves open, because all of us, as Emerson says, all of us are part of that whole. All of us are a part of that whole. But it's only the emptiness which will, let things pour in. And that is what imagination is, I think. I mean, there is nothing new in this universe. It's about honoring that kind of intelligence that is originating from within us rather than from outside sources. Do
exactly.
you? Yeah.
Well, I think imagination and consciousness are very much related. And I think what's positive about what's going on in the world today is through the internet and maybe world travel, people are
Yes.
meeting one another. We can experience all cultures. We can travel if we have the resources to anywhere in the world, and we can make friendships online, etc. So I think that really is uniting the world. They call it the noosphere. It's like the planet is becoming conscious of itself. And these higher levels of consciousness, I think, are what we have to strive for. It's been said, therefore, we begin with our ego consciousness, and that's what's like a prison, and we have to break out of our ego consciousness, and the
Yes.
arts certainly help us to do that. So does meditation, etc. Then we identify with the family or nation. Nationalism is becoming very dangerous,
Yes.
not just in the US, but in India too.
That is binding us. That's limiting us. It's
Yes,
narrowing us.
exactly. And it's turning us against our neighbors, against one another. It's dividing us internally. But then there's the planetary consciousness, and that's what ecology movement is all about, becoming citizens of the world and becoming planetary beings, not just Americans or Indians or Japanese or Filipino or whatever, becoming truly human by becoming planetary. And then the fourth stage is cosmic consciousness, which we at times I get a sense of that, a glimpse of that, an emotion. I feel that, I'm part of the whole cosmos. It is a joyous state if you can get to that point, but again, you can't sustain it. At least I can. But the arts help us to tap into planetary and cosmic consciousness. So I think it all goes together. Everything is spirit in a way.
Yes. And what would be your, ideas on like the media and like you said, the information from outside? In fact, it is lulling us into passivity.
It is.
It
Well, I've
has,
noticed.
yes, it is lulling
Well,
us
I've
into
noticed, yeah, it is making.
passivity. It is making us dull.
Well, we're not thinking anymore. That's why I left teaching early, because I would have still been teaching now, until I dropped over. It's my reason for being, I guess. But it seems, I hate to stigmatize young people, but it seems like young people in US and in Kenya where I taught and in India where I taught, they're not thinking anymore. They don't know how to think. You almost have to teach them how to think. And these are university students.
Yes, this is
They don't have a
happening.
mind of their own. They've lost it because of, well, television is very insidious, but I think the social medias are extremely so. And I've watched in my town here, Bhopur, Shantiniketan even, now that everyone has a smartphone, I just bought a new one the other day and it has 100 different things you can do. I would say that's ways to waste your time. Keep you asleep, keep you passive. You know, there should be one day of the week where you just put all your media down. We call it media fasting in the US. It's a good concept. You know, we're a whole family, like one day, Saturday or Sunday or whatever, you put aside all your media and just enjoy nature, enjoy each other, listen to the birds, and rediscover our humanity, because I think these technologies are so powerful.
Yes.
I mean, this little machine it's so powerful, you know, it can distract you. I think it's a big distraction.
Big distraction, and especially for the
Yeah.
younger generation. And in fact, this, our culture also, it demands that we hurry up and do and produce and move fast, higher up the ladder. In fact, becoming breathless. And what are we worshiping? Speed and efficiency. And in fact, it is then becoming a real challenge to find space. What is your take on that? I mean, it's for all of you, three of you.
Or someone else?
I feel that really we have lost the connection, especially the younger generation, because of too much Western. I'm talking from being in India, right? There's so much Western influence here. I have a 16-year-old daughter, so I'm kind of really connected with the young generation. And I feel there's a huge, huge loss of the qualities and the gifts, spaciousness, like you mentioned, Jyotiji, and stillness. Like, there is no concept of spaciousness and stillness for this generation. Even the schools are really whipping our kids into learn faster, learn more, achieve more. You have to get into university. You have to do this. I mean, there's just so much of a rush for everything. And our kids are growing up losing that the essential elements of spaciousness and stillness. I do feel it's a big loss for this generation.
Yes, this is a big loss indeed, because we are losing that imagination, that creativity, which should spring from inside. That originality is lost. We have all become, like it's just been copying from here and there. And that kills your,
So, yeah,
yes,
social media is creating influence and it's creating influenced. So if we have many influencers who are very successful, it's because there are many people out there willing to be influenced. So everyone is so deeply conditioned by what is being thrown at them from the outside.
external.
There is no deconditioning in coming back to myself, coming back to my originality. You know, that is a sad development happening currently.
Okay, then how can arts and culture, along with spirituality, transform? This was the question actually. How it's going to transform the mankind, the coming generations? How is that possible? I mean, through artists like you, because we are on a platform where we are talking about unity consciousness, we are talking about oneness. So, how is art and culture going to help there?
Well, they're inherently energizing and consciousness raising. But you know what happens a lot of times, I even see it when we play music, that so many people, they're photographing, they're videoing our concert. And even though that's good to do occasionally, it's like this machine is standing between them and the experience. So rather than feeling it, they're recording it. And I ask sometimes, why you spend so much time taking selfies and this and that, constantly videotaping this and that? And they say, we want a record of our lives. Well, you mean when you're on your deathbed, you can look back and see what my life was like, but wouldn't it be better just to live it? You know, be directly connected to the music and the dance and the beauty of art. And in US, a lot of people have not only lost their imagination, they've lost sense of the spirit. And yet they're nurtured by art. I know a number of artists, they don't believe in they don't even believe in God really, but art is close to spirit. And even though they say I'm an atheist or whatever, they experience the spirit directly or indirectly through art, or even going to an art museum or going to a concert. You're listening to the music, you're not making it, but you feel it, So
Yes.
I know a number of Americans who, through art, through drawing, through painting, through taking advantage of cultural opportunities, they remain human, and they keep their imagination alive. So they're not dead yet, but they don't want to talk about religion. Nobody that there are some, of course, but most people in the U.S. don't want to talk about religion or even spirituality, because they don't have a sense of it. And yet, still, through the arts, through literature, others through nature, a lot of people get lost in nature. That's their only connection to spirit.
Their own connection.
That's spirit. The spirit is in nature. So
there is
survive.
the sect of Shakers in America, who tried to deny that all sensuality. They found the emotional, religious expression by just physically shaking. So
Yeah, the
foot
Quakers
stomping, hand clapping, swaying are all artistic elements of any kind of. In fact, many rites. So even they have found American sect of the Shakers I'm talking about.
Yeah, the Shakers are they had ritual or ecstatic dancing.
Yes, and in fact I came across this. So I said they tried to deny all sensuality, and they found their emotional religious expression just by physically shaking.
Yeah, or by twirling, dancing. Yeah.
There's
Yes,
a psychology in shaking. So when we are shaking our body, there is our body is continuously being infused by life energy, right? Life energy is coming through our body in many ways, through many stimulation. There are many sources of energy that is continuously infusing us. There's mental stimulation, emotional stimulation, physical, sensory, visual, auditory. All of it is continuously energizing our body. And then when we start shaking, we are letting our body get rid of excess energy. A lot of excess energy is being shaken, and then we're left with just enough what is needed. There's an equilibrium in our body. In the equilibrium, which our body is designed for, this homeostatic equilibrium, is where we can have an experience of self, which the experience of self is always divine.
this is what AIU also told us, isn't it? Deloy is
I would say
yes.
that I agree.
Your what? Yeah,
I feel called to say.
I think your net is unstable.
Hello?
Is it? Because I can't hear you properly.
Hello. How
Or is it
about
some
now?
problem here at
Hello?
my end?
Hello.
Yes.
That's not yet.
No, it's there, but it's too
How
soft.
about now? Hello.
Better. Slightly louder.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I agree. Too much of the technology, and it's too much. It's too fast. I mean, just 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, I remember, going online and I have to wait 20 minutes for my email to open. And that was the norm. And, we would have like analog phones. And now, like, it's so fast that, even governments, education systems, all systems, even the arts couldn't really keep up with this technology. What is the ethics, and how do we use it? How do we use it, and how much of it is healthy, for our humanity, for our psyche, for our emotions? But then at the same time, and I just want to talk a little bit about, Philippine context. We've had, during this COVID, we've had a lot of typhoons that are so bad for, the like poor, socioeconomically poor Filipinos. But honestly, it's technology that kind of saved them. Finally they were up in the roofs, like, oh, everyone was stranded, but because they had social media, they could ask for help. And then the other thing is, there are a lot of Filipinos, again, they're OFWs, they're far from their families, and a lot of Filipinos are nurses abroad that are dealing with so much pressure and also loneliness and all issues from not seeing their families because they're stuck in the hospitals or, for 9 months or 10 months. And I would like to acknowledge that in that way, it is Zoom, it is technology that had connected them, that had kept giving them hope. And then eventually, you have meditation masters or teachers, or even just, a friend who just could finally now, because of this technology, could go online and eat with someone together on the other side of the screen. And this is another example, is it's the first for most Filipinos wherein research shows, statistics shows that we have a lot of like really young ones now that are fighting for climate change, that are fighting for, okay, immediately they know this typhoon or this issue, and it's like young Filipinos that are tech savvy, they're like, okay, let's do donation drives, let's do something, let's do fundraising and all of that. So yeah, on the other hand, I really agree that even for myself and for my immediate family, there's a consequence, this almost addiction, social media being our TV and us having so much power on our hands that it's like, okay, how do we develop the skills to discipline and to,
Yes.
structure our day and remember to come back to, we do need spiritual practices to anchor us back into our humanity, even if it's just breathing or anything like that, or remembering, being fully present and enjoying our bodies in the present, the people around us, nature, if we're afforded that. But then at the same time, I feel it, this platform in itself, this is an art form. The fact that we could go online and talk live, whoever was behind, this, the world united, and you guys coming up with a song that you played a while ago or a video, that in itself is a form of creativity and art that has connected us here. And whoever is watching us and will be watching us, I think this is, the other side of the spectrum, that there is still good to this technology. And at the same time, I really also want to acknowledge what Zia described, that even though it's a hurricane and it's so fast, like to zoom out, it's like there's an order to it. And maybe I'm influenced by, me being privileged enough to live by the sea, this is 5 hours away from Manila, our city center. I'm finally, at 35 years old, I'm far from city traffic and living in boxes. I just live in a hut, and it's just, by the sea. And I see the sunset every time, and it ennobles me and it humbles me every time. And I get that, connection to spirit, connection to source, connection to that natural art show that I get to see. That I'm more in the space of, what if everything is as it should be, like in the grand, scheme of things or timeline of things, that we are really meant to experience technology with all its pros and cons this fast and this drastic in this virus, so that, eventually at the same time, equally, those of us who have, I don't know, probably been through hell and back and are like, okay, we have a story to tell or like a message to come across, like we could come together in this way and connect and finally show even the next generation that we don't have to have one faith, we don't have to have one name for that God, or even those who don't believe in God, like we could come together and console each other, comfort each other, or something like
So
that.
that's a wonderful message that you have conveyed through, again, technology.
Yeah.
Using this platform, there is no denying to this fact that there is nothing wrong under the sun. Technology has its own benefits, but at the same time, what we were talking about is what I have seen, that arts, poetry, or whatever, in fact, even we all have seen this, they really take you inwards. And spirituality is also taking you inwards. Why are we here on this planet? What are we here to, what is the purpose of our life? And that is how art and culture becomes important when it is, along with spirituality, it moves. There was nothing like technology and art and culture, but this is what one should understand. Excess of anything, of course, is always bad. And misuse, as Richard said, it is a misuse. Taking selfies and recording the dance instead of enjoying the dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but that really, what that I mean, I was so, it was so good that Richard brought up that aspect, because it really comes down to one thing. We just don't know, and we are uncomfortable to be present. So while I'm in the present moment of a performance, I'm thinking of my future, I'm thinking of my past, I'm preparing for my future, so that in my future I can go to my past, but I just don't know how to be present. I'm so uncomfortable with being present. And this is where,
Yes. And this is what Murthy ji said, the dance for yourself.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
So
So with
that is,
this question, how can we bring this and art and spirituality to our current world right now? How can we bring it in a way that it helps us? I think if we can create more opportunities for people to come into the experience of art, uh, just for the sake of art, that sometimes you can do something that has no purpose, that has no end result, that is not going to gratify you or give you an award or give you any kind of accolades. But if we create such space for people, just come for the experience, and this is going to give you nothing. And just the experience itself. So people don't have opportunities for this. Schools, colleges, universities are not providing this principle or an opportunity, and that's where we're missing out.
yes, absolutely. And in fact, even like you're conducting classes, you do. And even EA is, I think, this is what you said here. So you hold workshops, you're holding classes. And it is, I think, only those limited few who can, understand the value of what it is getting into whirling or what it is getting into the Deloy movements. So, something which is believing that your inner teacher is inside, it is not outside, that your inner source is the real happiness. So it's only limited to those who are coming to your workshops. And what you say, that it should be in colleges, institutions, schools, it can be brought up there. That is an excellent idea that I would, appreciate. Anything else that you would like to convey through this platform on, yes, unity consciousness? Let us start with Richard, sir, and then what would be your message through this platform that we have to be, uh, just a second, I can see Dr. Yugandhar connecting here. So you're welcome here on the platform. And is the man behind this big mega event, the last chapter, Asia chapter. It has been a wonderful experience with 6 continents, huge thing, and 7.5 population that we have touched. So, sir, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for all the wonderful speakers, Richard Sharp, ZIA NATH, TORRADO, and all other people on the board. We have got wonderful talks being heard world over to each one of you, the discussions as well. And today is supposed to be the most powerful day of the year, 21st December, the solstice day.
Yes.
Thank you, Jyotiji, for this wonderful moderation of these magnificent beings here. So I have a question, one question common to all of you. Someone can step forward. The question is, now the subject is spirituality, arts and culture. How do you actually see arts? Mr. Murthy was telling, dance your way to enlightenment. ZIA NATH was also speaking the same. TORRADO, everyone is speaking the same. Richard Sharp, a social artist,
Social
and
artist.
altogether a different school of thought, talking on Earth Constitution. Seemingly different, seemingly diverse, seemingly difficult areas of expertise. We're all here together for a common vision of awakening the unconditional human consciousness. I have one common question, that is, how do you think arts, be it dance, be it poetry, be it pottery, different forms of performing arts, in olden times in the sense, the times of Gautam Buddha, times of Socrates, When Gautam Buddha was alive, Socrates was also alive. They are our contemporaries. In India, there is a tradition of learning arts, 64 kalas, 64 different types of arts are there in India. And he who is educated is supposed to learn all the 64 arts. Otherwise, he's not called as educated. Same with Socratic period. The education was divided into two categories, trivium and quadrivium. Trivium means 3 things are there, quadrivium 4 things are there. It includes geometry, music, geology, meditation, rhetoric, poetry, all these type of things are there. So he who has learned these 7 things, trivium and quadrivium, 3 plus 4, is supposed to be called as educated. So from the perspective of arts, performing arts, how do you actually see one as educated? In the present world, if someone has to be called as educated, he must have some alphabets, like bachelor degrees or master degrees. Once you are educated, how far you are educated, where you are educated. An expert in biology is illiterate in oceanography. So arts, which is not actually seen as a part of education, is something called as something which is perceived as extracurricular activity in many countries of the world, which is considered more as a passion, more as a hobby, or more as a leisure time activity than main activity of life. So how do you see arts as, how do you connect arts not as a hobby, not as a leisurely activity, but as a tool, as a method, as a technique to get connected with oneself, and arts as part of this wholesome education, to be called a person as educated, to be called a person as literate, how arts should be a part, how arts play a vital role, a significant role to call oneself as wholesomely educated, wholesomely spiritual. For me, education and spirituality both are same. So how arts are very useful. Please, someone can step forward. Maybe Richard, maybe Gianna, maybe TORRADO. Someone can step forward and please throw some light on this.
Well, I can say one thing, having lived here in Shantiniketan for 4 or 5 years. This is the home of the great Rabindranath Tagore. And next year, 2021, will be the centennial of Vishabharati, his university, which is nothing like it was. It's been taken over by the government. So it's it's not anywhere like his vision, which was more like an ashram. The students would meet outside with the teacher, guru, underneath a tree, and they would sit in a circle. And that seems like an ideal way to educate people in nature, not in a box, you know. And part of the inherent education at Vishabharati was music, dance, singing, and poetry. Of course, he was one of the great poets of the world. And but he also wanted them to know mathematics and so-called Western science. He integrated that too, and I think it's a matter of integration. You know, balancing our intellect with our imagination. We can't be human without either one. I mean, I guess you could be too much imbalance towards the imaginative part and not developing your intellect. I mean, that would also be crippling. But I think modern education has to integrate the arts if we're going to remain human or humane. You know, otherwise we're just we're becoming more like robots. It's not exactly a new idea, but I think the arts are absolutely vital for our humanity. So they should be integrated into our education from preschool. That's my
I would
thought.
like to say, I agree with that. I agree with,
Yes.
sitting in circles and being outdoors instead of in, like boxed, and even more stereotypical way of learning, wherein you have one expert and everyone has to like work so hard, to please that expert, instead of a more openness, more peer-to-peer, more confidence, and cultivating how to think and think outside of boxes, and think creatively. And I so agree with, we need to put arts at the forefront, especially in educating the young and in the educational system, so that we remain human and humane. I have met a lot of young artists here, and even in my own experience, whose dreams in the arts industry or arts world, or their dreams as artists, have been killed at such a young age because of the competitiveness, in schools, because of unhealthy competition, because of a lot of pressure, because of top-down hierarchy and bureaucratic practices that is all there, wherein you were born to just, you have to achieve this, and have this in your name. And so you get there. But then we know from a lot of indigenous wisdom and indigenous practices, and a lot of wisdom bearers, that there's so much wisdom out there that wasn't just included in the academia, for example, or in a specialized structure. So just, I guess, an acknowledgement of the wealth of knowledge that is around and that is outside of academic, patriarchal, capitalistic structures, that, as we know now, where the whole planet is like, it doesn't work. And again, I feel like I would like to also again credit that this is another good thing about technology. Now more information is new and free, and we have YouTube, and we have we have platforms like this, wherein anyone who may be interested in what we're doing and is elevating in consciousness, from ego consciousness to planetary consciousness, who have this, for free online, and could watch this, could study from this, could talk to their friends about this. And this is an art form in itself. I believe, like, an example of art having to be good, having to be revered, having to be focused on, is an example of, for example, the World United logo. If the World United logo isn't beautiful, we wouldn't have as much people. So that's how important now design is. Again, an eye for beauty and being able to communicate, something through a logo. That is an art form in itself, graphic design or design. So we have hope. Yay.
Thank you, Torrado. So what do you, Diana, what is your take on it?
To answer your question, I'm going to quote a neurobiologist and a spiritualist. There's Paul MacLean. He's a neurobiologist from the 1960s. He became very famous for his brain model that he conceived and shared with the world, which is currently in the new neurobiology sciences is a bit of a debunked theory, but I love it from a very psychological human consciousness development. He called our brain as a triune brain system. We have the primary brain, which is the base of the brain, which is all about primal survival instinct, and it's about the sensory experience of the body. Then we have the limbic brain, which is our second brain, which is unique to mammals, which differentiates us from reptiles. All mammals have it, and it gives us the experience of emotions, bonding, attachment, societies, love, and the whole emotional consciousness. Then what differentiates humans from other mammals is the third brain. That's why it's called the triune brain system. That's the neocortex. It gives us the ability to think, logical processing, memorizing, scientific development, all of that. We also have a fourth brain, which is right in front, which is our spiritual brain. So Paul MacLean talked about the synthesis of the triune brain system brings us into the, into the epitome of what human beings are meant to be. And then George Gurdjieff, who's a master of dance from, an Armenian mystic, he talked about 3 sources of energy. And we have this in every spiritual tradition all over the world, that there is a physical energy that creates the body. the mental energy that creates the mind and thoughts, and emotional energy that creates our feelings. As long as we are disintegrated in these three energies, we are living in separation. But the moment we have a balance of each of these energies, we come into alignment. That alignment transports us to the fourth dimension. And that fourth dimension in yoga is called Rajas Yoga. In Upanishads is called Shunyata. In Christianity, it's called the Kingdom of God. And to synthesize these two, the spirituality of Gurdjieff and the scientific theory of Paul MacLean, I'm going to quote Lao Tzu, who I think was a scientist and spiritualist of the human consciousness. And Lao Tzu says, which is very much also echoing what Richard was saying about integration, and that's what we're really needing. We need both. Lao Tzu says it this way: 30 spokes share the wheel's hub. It is the center hole that makes it useful. Shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Cut doors and windows for a room. It is the holes that make it useful. Therefore, profit comes from what is there, usefulness from what is not there.
Wonderful insights from three great panelists. Richard, sharp, incisive insights that your name implies. A torrential flow of knowledge. Yeah, yes, wonderful. So, the World United invites all these magnificent beings like you into something called as council. The World United is not governed by a single individual. It is not governed by any organized philosophy. It is the forces of truth in the form of the councils which govern the World United. As long as the earth exists, the World Parliament on Spirituality definitely exists, because someone will be there to carry forward this torch. There will be torch bearers, for sure. Because spiritual awakening is an eternal subject. Spiritual awakening is an ongoing, continuous subject, which is very, very, very important. So it will be for generations to come. The World Parliament on Spirituality will exist. So to make it more useful, to make it more helpful, we are inviting all the wise people of the world to join these councils. So herewith, I'm leaving a link here on the chat box, how to join the council. Please take your inner call. And this is my personal invitation from the board of the World Parliament of Spirituality, from the World United. I'm personally inviting the three of you to go through that and take inner call and sign up, please. Thank you very much. Thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
Thanks for your wonderful moderation, and thanks all the speakers here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And so, on your behalf, I invite you all today. We are going to have a 1 hour meditation also, and it has been. So, can we put that link here? Is it possible to give that? From 5 to 6 in the evening today, the whole world is going to meditate together and raising the energy of this planet Earth. So you're all invited. And this is what Sir has just shared with you here. Please, in the chat box, you can see that. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here with us and for giving us your precious time and sharing your wonderful views and your knowledge that the world is going to be really benefited from. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Should we make it a day, sir? Should we make it a day, sir? Okay. Thank you, Zia. Thank you, Ia. And thank you, Richard, sir. Dr. Yugandhar, thank you. All the best. Stay blessed, all of you. Stay blessed.
Thank you. Well, Richard, I have a question for you.
You can. Okay.
You had
Yes.
mentioned website. Can you just tell me what was that website? I was trying to take it down, then I lost it. You had.
Oh, it's
Okay,
www.
you can put it in the
dot-
chat box, Richard. Chat box. You can put it in the chat box.
It's disabled for participants.
Okay.
Yeah, it's www.worldconstitution.world.
World Constitution.
No, sorry. Earth Constitution
Earth Constitution.
.world. Yeah. That's it.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I enjoyed it.
And we do hope that in the evening we will be all together meditating for
Yes.
the energy consciousness, the united consciousness of this whole world. Thank you so much for being with us.
5 to 6 p.m.
Yes, 5 to 6 p.m.
Indian Standard Time.
Sir has just shared here. I'll just share it: www.theworldunitedincontinuation.org/100
Oh.
Please share your group in your groups.
You can share it. Yes, you can share it with your friends in your groups, and let us all meet in the evening then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zia, Richard, sir, Mehboob Bhai also here, and Jose for holding this. He's been hosting it. Thank you so much, all of you. So let's make it a day today. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, sir. Bye.